media, and many more on Morning Impact. From 6 a.m. to 12 noon every day on High Impact 102.1 FM, your urban lifestyle station.
And I know it's gonna be a lovely day.
Hello there. Join us Mondays to Fridays, 7:05 a.m. for newspaper reviews, headlines, analysis, and comments on your urban lifestyle station. High Impact 102.1 FM.
Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Lagos. You're tuned into Impact 102.1 FM. And this is a newspaper review this morning, Thursday, December 4th, 2025. Yeah. Today, the national conversation is dominated by calls for transparency in the fight against insecurity, tighter pressure on the government institutions, and sweeping economic reforms. Yes, from Abuja to Abeokuta, Lagos to Unigwa, the headlines reveal a nation confronting its toughest challenges with renewed urgency. Yes, so we're going to take it straight down into the papers this morning. We'll be analyzing the Punch newspaper, the Vanguard, Daily Trust, and the Guardian newspaper this morning. Starting off with the Guardian newspaper this morning, major headline on the Guardian says Senate reps adopt hardline anti-terror measures back Musa. Senate reps adopt hardline anti-terror measures back Musa. And you can get that on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Right below the nameplate, we have CPC status. That's country of particular concern status. U.S. mounts pressure on Nigeria, vows visa restrictions. U.S. mounts pressure on Nigeria, vows visa restriction. And you can get that on news page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. And beside that story, we have MTEF clears path for 2026 budget as federal government reviews revenue gaps. NTEF clears path for 2026 budget as federal government reviews revenue gaps. And you can get that on news page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. And the last story we'll be taking this morning on the Guardian newspaper says stakeholders demand legal backing for REV in transmission of results. And that story you can get on news page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. And that's how we'll be taking this morning on the Guardian newspaper. And of course, you know that you can join the conversation by calling us in on 090-722-45018. I'll take that again, 090-722-45018. You can either call us or text us on WhatsApp or the normal text message 090-722-45018. Of course, we need you to join the conversation. We want to hear your voice. We want to get your opinion on these stories that are affecting both you and I. Moving on to the next paper, we'll be taking the Daily Trust newspaper. Major headline on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning says, revised cash policy, real effect. And that's a little story written on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. You can as well grab a copy of Daily Trust newspaper this morning and get to know more about that story. Moving on to another story on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, it says insecurity, there are gaps within armed forces, and this is coming from General Musa. Insecurity, there are gaps within armed forces. And you can get more on that story on page 5 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And beneath that story, we have why only 2.5 million of 9.8 million completed voters registration. This is like a question. Why only 2.5 of 9.8 completed voters registration? I really want to know more on that story. Go to page 12 of Daily Trust newspaper this morning. And beside that story, we have 4 killed as police youth clash in Kogi. 4 killed as police and the youth clash in Kogi. That's a really sad story. 4 killed. And you can get that on page 30 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Gunmen adopt 3 students in Edo. Gunmen adopt 3 students in Edo. This is like the insecurity issue we are talking about. Now we are seeing people getting adopted in Edo. 3 students. And you can get more on that on page 30 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And right beneath the nameplate, we have Senate moves to tag kidnapping act of terrorism. And I hope they actually do. Senate moves to tag kidnapping act of terrorism. And you can get more on that story on page 10 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And beside that story, we have Fubara lawmakers at loggerheads again. Fubara lawmakers at loggerheads again, and that story is on page 11 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And the last story we're taking on Daily Trust newspaper this morning says U.S. to restrict visas for genocide supporters in Nigeria. U.S. to restrict visas for genocide supporters in Nigeria. And you can get that on page 12 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And that's all we'll be taking this morning on Daily Trust newspaper. And before we move to remaining 2 papers this morning, we'll be going on a quick break. And when we're back, we'll analyze the remaining 2 papers and we'll get your calls, your texts on WhatsApp or normal text message. You know the phone lines are open 090-7224-5018. Want to hear your opinion on these stories. How is it affecting you? What do you think the government is not doing? Do you have better plans for them? Do you want to tell them how you are feeling about these things that are happening? Is it the economic issue? Is it the security issue? Whatever issue that you want to talk about, of course, you can call us 090-7224-5018. And we are live on YouTube at iImpact 102.1 FM. iImpact 102.1 FM. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
It's been 3 years of broadcasting love, where dreams and hopes are shared. In city streets and rural lanes. We're present, empowering minds, healing hearts, and lifting spirits around. We feel the fire, shining light on Nigeria's delight. News that informs.
So many people say, fix the country properly.
Sports with that thrill, and music for your soul. We're your voice, your story, your platform. From Lagos to other parts of the world. High Impact Radio 102.1 FM. Sharing light, love, and hope. Happy anniversary.
I love you, babe.
I know, and I love you too. This is why I've made it so that you can now have me everywhere you go. www.highimpactstudios.com. Press play. Links in our social media bio. Click at High Impact 1021 FM. Or you can just go the regular way. Turn on your radio and tune in to 102.1 FM.
We love you at High Impact Radio. Mwah!
See, there is no separating us now.
The sea, the waves, serenity. High Impact Cruise.
Welcome to High Impact Cruise.
Yes, experience the waters of Lagos, you and your family on Eugene 1. a luxurious ultra-modern 4-story yacht, fabulous music, sumptuous meals, and an elegant, well-stocked bar with an array of exotic drinks. Call 0705 095 5987 or 0806 483 1491 for bookings and enquiry. High Impact Cruise. Dream, discover, explore.
In a world of too many sounds, one station sounds better than the best. High Impact 102.1 FM. We are the future sound.
Welcome back to our Impact 102.1 FM. If you are still tuned in, you know this is the newspaper review segment. And if you're just joining us, welcome. We're currently a newspaper segment, and we'll review the Guardian newspaper and the Daily Trust newspaper. Now we're moving to the remaining two papers for this morning, and that is the Vanguard newspaper and the Punch newspaper. So we'll be starting the segment with the Vanguard newspaper. Major headline on the Vanguard newspaper this morning says, no more negotiation, ransom payments to terrorists. And this is coming from the Defense Minister, General Musa. He says, no more negotiation and ransom payments to terrorists. And we have three riders to this story. Reps seek transparent prosecution of terrorism-related cases. Senate backs death penalty for kidnappers, financiers, informat orders. Open trial of terrorists won't change anything, and this is coming from the lawyers. And you can get more on that story on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. And beneath that story, we have 4 trillion debt. Angry contractors besiege finance minister, demand 760 billion naira payment. And you can get more on the story on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. Beneath that story, we have gunmen attack Abia government's team in Imo State. Gunmen attack Abia governor's team in Imo State. And you can get more on that on page 11 of the Vanguard newspaper. Shettimat's governors overcome challenges, not explain them. So the vice president is telling governors, overcome challenges, not explain them. And you can get more on that on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. And then above the nameplate, we have CBN remove limit on cash deposits, raises weekly withdrawal limits. Are we going to say this is a good move? Yeah. CBN removes limit on cash deposits, raises weekly withdrawal limit. And more the story is on page 19. Moving to page 13, Niger adoptees be rescued soon. And this is coming from Governor Bago. Niger adoptees will be rescued soon. Moving to the next story on the Vanguard newspaper this morning, says U.S. issues visa ban on Nigerians involved in anti-Christian violence. U.S. issues visa ban on Nigerians involved in anti-Christian violence. And that story is on page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper. And the last story we're taking on the Vanguard newspaper this morning says, fake old case 2026 to 2028 MTEF project 34.33 trillion naira revenue. Fake old case 2026 to 2028 MTEF project 34.33 trillion naira revenue. And that's the last story we're taking on the Vanguard newspaper this morning. moving to the Punch newspaper this morning, major headline on the Punch newspaper says adoption crisis. NAS asks federal government to name terrorism financiers. And we have one writer to that story. Lawmakers demand guard for schools, worship halls. New defense minister probes Kebbi kidnap, Army general's death. And you can get more on that on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Miners reject governor's 6-month mining ban plan. Miners reject governor's 6-month mining ban plan. And that story is on page 36 of the Punch newspaper. Beneath that story, we have AFCON repays 3.6 trillion naira loan to the Central Bank of Nigeria. And that story, you can get it on page 35 of the Punch newspaper. Abiodun presents 1.67 trillion naira 2026 appropriation bill to Ogun Assembly, and there's a pictorial representative of this story on the front page of the Punch newspaper. But of course, you can get more on that on page 34 of the Punch newspaper. Beneath that story, we have Senate questions ministers on $30 million school safety project. Senate questions ministers on $30 million school safety project. And that story is on page 3 of the Punch newspaper. Beside that story, we have 22 Lagos PSP operators fired for underperformance. 22 Lagos PSP operators fired for underperformance. And more on that story is on page 5. Beside that story, CBN ends cash deposit limits for bank customers. CBN ends cash deposit limits for bank customers. And that story is on page 36 of the Punch newspaper. And beside the nameplate, we have U.S. moves visa bans over alleged Christian killing in Nigeria. Yeah, and that story is on page 3 of the Punch newspaper. Right above the nameplate, we have federal government unveils 54 trillion naira budget as debt service gulps 16 trillion naira. That is quite a huge amount. But more on that story is on page 35 of the Punch newspaper. Beside the story, we have voter register review begins as INEC closes registration. Voter register review begins as INEC closes registration. And the last story we're taking on the Punch newspaper this morning says U.S. company withdraws Nigeria's presidential jet from sale. U.S. company withdraws Nigeria's presidential jet from sale. Now let's look into some of these stories. We know NAS demands federal government to name terrorism financiers. Now, the National Assembly has intensified their pressure on the federal government, calling for the public disclosure of individuals and networks funding terrorism across the country. Lawmakers say Nigeria cannot win on terror without exposing those providing the financial lifeline that fuels kidnappings, bombings, and banditry in general. They also demand better protection for schools, places of worship, and public institutions following fresh adoptions in Kebbi State. So now, for over a decade, Nigeria has battled the rise of extremism, armed groups, sophisticated kidnapping rings, while international partners have previously released partial lists of suspects. Nigeria has been slow with its own reviews and findings, often citing national security concerns. Now, lawmakers are insisting that transparency is essential in restoring public confidence. I want to hear your thoughts about this. Do you think they're correct, or do you think they shouldn't release these names and maybe to cause an issue in the country? I want to hear your take on this. 090-7224-5018. Another story we're going to talk about is the defense minister saying no negotiation, no ransom to terrorists. In a decisive policy shift, the Minister of Defense has announced that the federal government will no longer negotiate with terrorists. I thought we're then negotiation because there was a time the government said they were not negotiating with terrorists and they will never negotiate with terrorists. So now what's going on? Why is the defense minister saying we're no longer? Is that something they're hiding from us? Now they say we no longer negotiate with terrorists, nor support the payment of ransom for adopted victims. The minister says the new directive aims to dismantle the billionaire ransom economy that have threatened criminal groups and encourage the expansion of kidnapping operations across several states. If we know ransom payments have long been it has been a controversial issue over the years. Families and communities they're left without swift government rescue effort, and they have been forced to negotiate privately, forced to gather money to go pay these kidnappers so that they can release their loved ones. Security analysts warn that while the policy is strong on paper, the success will depend on rapid response. Yes, the success is actually going to depend on how the government is able to get those people that are kidnapped back, how they are able to strengthen the security in the country. Because if the security is not there and we're not seeing swift response from the government, from the officials, from the security personnel, I think people will be forced to still have to negotiate with these kidnappers. Hopefully we get something better. And now we also heard that Lagos State fires 22 PSP waste operators over underperformance. Lagos State government has dismissed 22 waste PSP operators for failing to meet standards. Officials says the removal are part of a broader plan to overhaul sanitation, especially as Lagos continues to battle flooding, illegal dump sites, and rapid urban waste growth. Hopefully, because there's more to say about this issue. Now, CBN removes cash deposit limit, raises withdrawal threshold. The Central Bank of Nigeria has announced the removal of cash deposit limits for individuals and businesses. Weekly withdrawal threshold has also been reviewed upward. This new policy aims to ease financial transaction, restore liquidity, rebuild public trust following the scarcity. Since that cash scarcity that happened in 2023, we faced quite a lot. So I think people would be happy with this new development. And the last story we're taking this morning is US issues visa ban on Nigerians involved in anti-Christian violence. The United States has imposed visa restrictions on unnamed Nigerians accused of participating in or supporting violence targeting Christian communities. Nigeria has long, we've been having this since when the US president gave us the tag of country of particular concern. Now we're saying that he is placing visa restriction on some individuals that, according to their investigation, are involved in this. Either they are supporting or they are actively involved in this. It's quite a story. And that's all we'll be taking this morning on the newspaper review. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for listening and staying here with me. It's been an interesting one, and that's all I'm going to be taking from the national security to economic reforms, state level development. Today's stories have highlighted a nation standing on a critical crossroad, demanding clarity, accountability, stronger leadership as 2025 comes to a close. And I've been your host for this morning, Arrogant Daddy Timmy Talkbear, Stay tuned for more updates. Don't go anywhere. You know, now today is Throwback Thursday. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back.
Hey, High Impact.
Hi, how may I help you?
So I want to know, is compassion a skill?
Interesting question. Compassion is actually a soft skill. It is caring about others and behaving towards them with affection, generosity, and concern. Compassion means having genuine feelings for other people's struggles.
Correct.
I hope you're compassionate to someone today.
I'll try.
Hello there. Join us Mondays to Fridays, 7:05 a.m. for newspaper reviews, headlines, analysis, and comments on your urban lifestyle station. High Impact 102.1 FM.
Start your day with Impact as we give you positive affirmations, traffic updates, entertainment, fun trivia, and many more on Morning Impact. From 6 a.m. to 12 noon every day on High Impact 102.1 FM, your urban lifestyle station.
And I know it's gonna be